The Dukes of Dice are brought to you by Tasty Minstrel Games. Check out all their awesome titles at playtmg.com.
Welcome to the Duchy. It's time for another episode of the Dukes of Dice podcast, a proud member of the Dice Tower Network.
Coming to you from the Duchy in the Duke City, Albuquerque, New Mexico, it's The Dukes of Dice, a podcast about board card and occasionally role-playing games. Today, the Dukes review Terraforming Mars. Then they look back at their reviews of Seven Wonders Duel and Codenames in a special Dukes Quadruple Take. And finally, they talk about solo travel games. And now, the Dukes of Dice.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Sean.
And Alex.
This is episode 122. What a wonderful world.
Yeah, gotta play some Louis Armstrong. Is that it?
Is it Louis Armstrong?
Think so.
Okay. Well, this is a good start for the episode.
I'm going to check it. I'm going to look it up.
You check it while I explain it. So this is courtesy Neil Hoffman over in our Board Game Geek Guild. Named this episode, we're talking about Seven Wonders Duel. So one wonderful world. You're traveling, Alex. So some solo travel games. And then, of course, Mars is a wonderful world, I guess.
Yeah, it was absolutely Louis Armstrong.
Oh, okay.
Get off my back.
I don't know. Whatever.
I see trees. Like, that's that.
Is that
voice.
how the song goes?
Kind of, yeah, but I can't. All right, look. If I wasn't sick, I'd try it. But I'm getting over something right now, Sean.
If it weren't for my horse, I never would have finished college.
What?
It's a Lewis Black stand-up bit. Anyway, nothing to do with anything, but just
great.
It's an excuse.
Man, we are off to a great start here.
We sure are. So we get all of our episode names from our trusty guild over on Board Game Geek. So if you want to head on over there, we're guild number 2008. And you can help name next week's episode, also contribute some stuff to the discussion topic and thoughts on the games that we're reviewing and things like that. Some show business before we jump into the episode, Alex?
Yes. Speaking of our trusty guild, I got to thank our guild. The response to my announcement last week, which we posted in a separate thread on the guild, has been pretty overwhelming and pretty great to see. A lot of support from folks, some friendly words, book recommendations, folks in some of the other countries, per my request, saying, hey, yeah, let's meet up and play some games. So I may end up playing games with someone in Stockholm, with someone in Copenhagen, with someone in Australia. It's been great. I've been getting a mix of travel tips, life advice, all sorts of good stuff. And it's been wonderful, and I've really appreciated it. Everyone.
So for context, if you're just tuning in this episode, maybe you're a new listener, or maybe you just missed last week's episode, you're leaving for about a 16-week hiatus.
Yeah. My last day at work is this Wednesday, so 2 days after this episode goes live. And then January 11th, I am departing the country.
Yes.
For a good chunk of time.
So, if you're brand new to the show, don't get too attached to Alex, because he's going to be gone for a while.
The character's getting killed off.
Yes, exactly. And, so I'm actually starting to set up some guest hosts for some of the weeks, and that's going well. And so the show will be going strong with half a Duke. But we'll have
with half a Duke. You're half a Duke?
Sorry. Yeah.
What?
I'm half a Duke.
Okay.
We're 1.5 Dukes.
So I'm 1.5 Dukes. I'm taking most of the Duke with me. Wow. Okay.
Yes.
And just a clarification, because some folks may be under a weird impression, I'm not leaving the show permanently. Like, that's not a thing.
Hiatus.
It's just a hiatus.
Yeah, just a hiatus.
It's a trip. It's a long trip.
Yeah, long trip. 16 episodes.
But yeah, thanks again. I'm going to try and thank everyone individually this coming week, but I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the support.
Are you going to fly out to them?
Well, no.
And thank them, knock on the door?
Like send them some words.
Like the end of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back?
I haven't seen that.
Where they fly to everyone's house that made fun of them on the internet and then they beat them up?
Haven't seen it.
Okay.
Yep.
Hey, speaking of things you've seen, did you see Rogue One, Alex?
I did. And you're maintaining it's better than Empire.
I think as a movie, as a film, it's better than Empire. No spoilers, absolutely no spoilers, but I greatly enjoyed it. I enjoyed some of the character development. You don't get as attached to them as you would the Saga characters. But I thought they did a great job, especially with the two leads, with Cassian, Diego Luna's character, and Jyn Erso. I thought that their motivations were really strong, and I appreciated that. And I like the other characters. I like Baze Malbus, who's the heavy gunner, and then I think one of my favorites is Chirrut Imwe, who's the blind monk.
You've already memorized the names.
And then K2SO, the droid played by Alan Tudyk, Wash from Firefly. Is hilarious. He's just hilarious. So overall, there was a lot of great action. The battle scenes were like Hoth, the Battle of Hoth, but like on steroids. And hey, that's not a spoiler. Well, never mind. Never mind.
Alrighty.
There was it was awesome. And I think as a film, movie compare movie to movie, I think that was better than Empire. I think Empire is still my favorite. First impressions. I'm gonna see it a couple more times while it's in the theater. At least twice more.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was really good. It was definitely a worthy movie for sure. I think I liked it better than Force Awakens, but not as much as Empire.
Okay.
I'm not going there.
Yeah.
So
yeah. All right. So last bit of show business, we have a contest going on, a giveaway, thanks to our friends over at Renegade Games Studios. Last week, one of the games we reviewed, did a feature review on, was The Blood of an Englishman, designed by Dan Cassar. And both of us really enjoyed it quite a bit. So Renegade Games is giving away a copy. This is going to end December 23rd at midnight Eastern time, because that's kind of the BGG servers, and that's just sort of what we use. And you can get up to 4 entries. There's a pinned tweet on our Twitter account. You can retweet that. There is a pinned post on our Facebook account, and you can share that and then also mention a friend in the comments. And then finally, if you want 2 entries for doing just one thing, you can email to Sean at dukesofdice.com. That's SEAN at dukesofdice.com. An audio clip of your best fee fi fo fum. And we've gotten a handful so far.
nice.
Yeah. So we might play some of them on the show. But yeah, so 4 ways to enter, or at least 4 entries to get, and we'll do that random drawing, and we will get that copy sent away to our lucky winners. Winner, singular, just one. And this is open to U.S. contestants only, I should mention, just for shipping reasons. So yeah. All right, well, let's talk about some games, Alex. Why don't you lead us off?
So I was there on Wednesday night at the Dukes of Dice game night. Sean, unfortunately, there's a lot of illness going around Albuquerque.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of places in general this time of year.
I wasn't sick, but Raquel has been super sick. Mariah had finals, so she was studying for finals. So and Carmen was gone, so there was really no one to watch Chewy. So I stayed home and watched Chewy while Raquel recovered.
I was sick enough that I ended up leaving the game night at about 9:30, which is pretty early for us. Tends to be pretty early. So, but I did get in a couple of plays. So, Sean, I am still undefeated at Scythe.
It's because we haven't played again.
Maybe.
I've worked out the kinks. My first 3 plays of Scythe, I got worse.
Yeah.
Right? And then something clicked in my brain.
Yeah.
And then I've been undefeated since.
Okay.
So I think
we'll do this at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's, you know what it needs to be? It needs to be a 7-player game.
Oh, geez.
I know. I really don't want to play that.
I don't want to do that.
But I feel like we need to at some point.
Oh, no.
Well,
So this new version adds 2 factions, which were already printed on the game board.
Invaders.
Spaces for them.
Invaders from Afar.
Yes.
Did you mention that? You may have.
Yes, I maybe.
I'll check the tape.
Okay, that's fine. So I was playing as the Roosevets. Basically, we dealt out the factions randomly with the 2 new ones in there. You have one that's the Shogunate. The Shogunate can kind of has Riverwalk to anywhere.
Yeah.
Doesn't have speed for anything, but can Riverwalk anywhere. And can lay traps. The character can lay traps on spaces that might take away combat strength, take away money, take away something from you if you land on them. So
Very cool.
Claim territory that way. Then there's another one, I can't remember their name offhand.
Albion, right?
That sounds right.
Yeah.
And they will plant flags. They also have a pretty powerful version of Riverwalk too. The reason both of those have that, by the way, is because they don't have starting islands.
Right.
They're sort of out there with everyone else in the mix. So really cool to see those, and really good to get this one back to the table. It seems like games kind of come and go in terms of what's hot and what's on the table all the time. This was cool to see back out again, and reminded me why I loved it so much.
Cool.
For sure. Don't give me Roosevets. It's a dangerous thing. I'm just gonna wreck fools. I wreck fools.
Yeah. All right. That's maybe more you than the Roosevets.
And I will say this: not everyone's universally happy with it. For instance, David, his second play, his first play he didn't like. His second play he really didn't like.
Interesting.
So, not for everyone, but it is very much so for me.
Well, I was hoping to get to play this week. I've got my copy sitting at Empire waiting for me to lovingly unwrap it and punch the cardboard and put it in my Meeple Realty insert, which yeah. I'm excited to play this. Very excited. I would hope this Wednesday be able to get it to the table.
Very cool.
So I got a Kickstarter fulfillment in from Asmati Games, One Deck Dungeon. This is a 1 to 2 player dice-based dungeon crawl game. And you can play up to 4 players if you combine copies. Matthew and I both went in on an order. We got the plastic cards, which are really nice. So we each got a set. And Matthew, unfortunately, has not gotten his because I didn't wind up going on Wednesday night. It's when it just came in. So while you were at Dukes of Dice game night, I came home. Raquel was asleep. Chewy was asleep. Mariah was studying for finals, like I said. So I opened my copy. So you get a character. There's a rogue, a wizard, a paladin, and a warrior. And each one of them has certain stats for agility, for combat, for magic, and then health. And then they also have some skill ability. Their skill value in each determines the number of dice of that color that you're going to roll. In the turn, what you're going to do is you're going to either kind of explore the dungeon by laying out up to 4 of the encounter cards, or you can go through one of the doors. And so you flip over a card, and it's either some monster that you have to defeat, or it's a trap or some kind of obstacle. And they each have these different colored boxes that you have to fill with the dice. So let's say that I was playing the Paladin. Paladin has like 3 magic, 1 agility, and I think 3 combat. So I roll 3 yellow dice, 1 pink dice, 3 blue dice. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to cover up the spaces on the card with sufficient enough die rolls. And then there's some mitigation that you're able to do. If you defeat it, then you can either take it and add it for its XP value, or you could take it and add it to an item, which boosts your stats, or you can take it and add it as a skill. And so these are all kind of tucking in different parts of the cards. And the skill will just give you some ongoing ability. So really interesting decision. How am I going to use this? Am I going to use this as a skill, an item, or for XP, which will then give me additional things that I can unlock? And it was hard. It was really hard, but I really like it. And in fact, I think that this is probably going to become kind of a go-to solo game. One of my issues with solo games is that by the time I set something up by myself, if Chewy's out for a nap or whatever, it's by the time I set it up, she's going to be up pretty soon, and then it's kind of hard to pick back up. I've actually got a copy of Cuba Libre or a game state of it that's on plexiglass right now. That's kind of up on one of the shelves, and it's been that way for like 5-6 weeks. So yeah, this is a much shorter kind of solo game, and I think that I'm going to prefer this as a solo game. I know our buddy Matt Walker played his copy 2 players, and he says he thinks he likes a better solo. But I really enjoy it. I think it's really cool. Chris Chislik from Asmati Games designed it, and I think you'll like it. But again, this might be a good one that we could talk about later in solo games.
Very cool.
Travel solo games.
That's right.
So that's one Deck Dungeon.
All right. I got in a play of Power Grid.
Wait for it.
The card game. So this is similar to Castles of Burgundy being implemented in a card game. Hey, it's Power Grid, but implemented in a card game, meaning you don't have the map where you're building your power stations to. And how it implements this, it does it in a couple of really interesting ways. There's a deck of resources that are out in the market. There's not a requisite certain amount in certain spaces. They're just dealt out randomly. Some might have 2 resources of a type. Some might have 3 resources of a type. Some might have just 1 resource of a type. And what you're doing is you are first bidding on power plants just like you would normally. But what the power plants do is, depending on if you can fire them or not, they will give you a certain amount of income as a result of firing them at the end of the turn. And the game winner is determined by who you get points based on your 3 power plants firing at the end of the game, how much that provides you, plus an extra, I think it's point for every 10 or point for every 5, I can't remember. And it has a lot of the same mechanics of Power Grid as you might imagine, just implemented in card game form. So, it's certainly a faithful implementation, but this is one where, hands down, I'm going to play the board game version of this any day over the card game version.
Okay.
The card game version is shorter. It has that going for it. But it just didn't feel like as much of a satisfying play as the board game itself. And I love the board game.
Do you think I could win the card game? Because I can't win the board game.
Yeah, you could probably win the card game.
Yes!
Mainly because you could get enough plays, so you'd have more iterations of it.
Then I like it better, even though I haven't played it.
There you go. So, yeah, I'm not going to look to pick this one up. I like Power Grid, the board game itself, much better. So this one's, it's not terrible by any means, but it's just not one that really hooked me. So that's Power Grid, the card game.
Well, the last game that I'm going to talk about is Glux. This is a game from Queen Games that you got to play over at BGG-Con.
And I bought.
And you bought, right. This was your...
I don't buy a ton of games.
This was your second purchase of the year.
No.
This was your fifth purchase of the decade.
Yeah.
Yeah?
No.
No. Okay. So Glux is an abstract game. It plays 2 to 4 players, and I played it with 2 players last night with Raquel on pseudo Dukes of Dice game night. So we didn't actually go out, and when Chewy finally went to bed, we took this out. Like I said, it's an abstract game, and there's a board, a bunch of squares, and certain squares are shaded differently. They're rooms, and at the end of the game, you're trying to have the control of the most rooms, essentially. In 3 and 4 player games, there's a point system that comes into play. And what you're using are these little chips that kind of look like dice, or at least dice pips. So you have 24 total. You have 8 of each. One chip is going to be 1 pip on one side, 6 pips on the other, and then 2, 5, 3, 4. You draw these out of your bag, and you're going to place them from pre-existing chips of yours on the board. So if I have a chip on the board that says that's 4 pips, I can place a new chip from my hand exactly 4 squares away orthogonally. And then maybe I place a 2, so then if I want to go off that last chip, now I need to place it 2 squares away. Now you can block movement, so my chip or someone else's chip is going to keep me from blocking movement, but if I can land exactly on a chip, I capture it, kind of. And once there's 2 chips on a square, that can no longer be captured. This was really good. I really enjoyed this. At 2-player, it was like I said, good. But I think it probably shines at 3 or 4.
Yes.
Different maps. So the 2-player had one side of the board, which was a little bit smaller. Really interesting in terms of an abstract. You're having to project threat like you would in chess or a lot of abstracts like that. You're trying to, rush out into the middle of the board so you can kind of spread to the other places more easily, more readily. And certain values have more than their pip value. For example, a 1 is really strong because a 1 kind of lets you put stuff all around it and clump up, which is going to help with scoring. But that 1 itself, because you're adding up all the pips for control of a room, is not great for scoring. So I pulled off a strategy where I was able to actually kind of block in Raquel's home base, so she couldn't have another route to expand. She just kind of had her initial stuff. It was really solid. I really enjoyed it. But again, I'm eager to try it more at 3 and 4 players.
Yeah, I played it at 3 players when I played this, and it shined for me at that player count for sure.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So, that was Glux from Queen Games. A bit of an abbreviated what we played, but there's just so much play going around, Alex, that it's a tough time. It's a tough time to get games in here in the Duchy.
It's true.
So, all right, well, let's head on over to the news desk.
All right, first up, King of Tokyo Power Up is getting an update. Sean, what are we talking about here?
So if you recall, Alex, a couple months ago, King of Tokyo's 2nd edition came out, and it had some new monsters. It cleaned up some rules issues, some errata, actually got printed on the cards. What this is doing is this is the Power Up expansion, which gave you the evolution abilities to the monsters and made them distinct, because in the base game, they're all identical. They just have different cardboard cutouts. So this gives you evolution cards to the 6 monsters of the new version and 2 monsters from the original version, Cyber Bunny and the Kraken. And so I'm kind of at a loss what to do here, because I've got my original copy of King of Tokyo, right? I don't know that I'm super interested in picking up an updated version, even though there's some new content in it. And now that content's going to be differentiated with this new Power-Up expansion, it just seems weird for me to have to buy 2 new games to get. I wish there were like an upgrade pack that they would do. Because I don't want to have to just buy
full price for
a new game and an expansion. But I mean, if you don't own King of Tokyo and this is a game that you would enjoy, it has that Yahtzee style mechanic. We've had a ton of fun with King of Tokyo. I think it's a fantastic game, but it's not one that I still want to shell out a bunch more money on just to kind of get some new stuff this way. So yeah, if you're interested, April 2017, this Power Up expansion, 2nd edition, set to release. So go check that out.
Cool. Next up, Dominion Big Box. So this is going to be, I guess, a newer version of Dominion, Sean? Is this how?
Well, no, they just released 2nd edition Dominion and Dominion Intrigue. And keep in mind that the new content that they put out, they did do an upgrade pack.
Oh, okay.
So they made it so you don't have to shell out for a whole new thing. So I appreciate that Rio Grande Games did that, whereas Yellow didn't. So this is a big box, which is going to include both of them, which is just kind of weird because usually big boxes include like the core set and then several expansions. However, this is going to be just those 2, the Dominion and Intrigue, which just came out in their 2nd edition forms. It's going to have some extra base cards so that if you want to play 6 players, you can do that. However, we're not sure, but it doesn't look like there's going to be room for additional expansions, which is kind of one of the reasons you get these big boxes, so you can kind of store everything in one spot. So that's kind of weird, but it's coming out pretty soon, January of 2017. No need for me to get this.
It's a good entry point in that it teaches you to think about games differently.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So, cool. All right, next up, the Resistance app.
Oh, I'm excited for this.
All right, so Sean, how's this going to work?
Okay, so from my understanding, it's not an app that you're actually playing. It's a companion app, which is going to narrate for you. It's going to narrate for the Resistance Avalon, and then it's going to include the roles and different rules for Hidden Agenda. I really like this because as the one that almost always narrates, that says, okay, everyone close your eyes, spies, open your eyes, identify each other, blah, blah, blah. I always get really nervous that when I am a spy or I'm a minion, of Mordred, that I'm going to give myself away because I'm narrating slightly differently. Or that as I'm looking around at the other spies, people can hear my voice change direction, and I've given myself away. So I appreciate that this is going to at least narrate that for me. So yeah, that's good. But apparently there is some AI in here that it's basically a dummy player, or maybe not even dummy player is not the right word, but if you don't have enough players, you can add in some AI players. This sounds really interesting to me. Number one, it seems weird because this is very much a social game and you're reading cues off of people. You know, this almost sounds like, can you imagine like your brother who just wants to kind of go through the motions, the mechanics of the game?
Right.
You know, this just sounds like a bunch of him adding in an app form. But that sounds interesting. So, like, for example, you know, the minimum play count is 5. I don't like playing with 5. For me, my minimum play count is 6, but I prefer probably 7 or 8 or more. But this would be interesting. I'd be interested to try this. This sounds cool.
You could play Resistance solo, theoretically.
Oh, man, that'd be amazing. No,
that'd be really weird.
That'd be really weird. But I do think that at least for the narration, I think that's pretty solid. So this just got submitted to the Apple and Android app markets for approval. I guess it's going to be debuting in Australia first. I think I heard that somewhere for some beta stuff. So I'm excited to check this out. It sounds pretty interesting.
Very cool. All right, finally, we always like to talk about Kickstarters. This week, we are not talking about a Kickstarter game, but a Kickstarter bag. The Con Carrier bag is what we're talking about. Here's the description from the Kickstarter page. The Con Carrier is made to carry games of all shapes and sizes, from the massive Kingdom Death Monster to the Titanic Ogre Designer's Edition to the Cyclopean horrors of the entire Arkham Horror series. Big games, small games, and then big games, small games, and normal-sized square boxes all fit in this bag very well. So the idea of this one, Sean, is it's meant to be something to make transporting stuff around cons easier.
Yeah.
And you, as someone who does take games to cons... Sometimes. Or certainly buys games at cons.
Certainly.
Does this appeal to you?
Well, it looks like a tote bag.
Yes, a giant tote bag.
Yeah, a giant tote bag. No, it doesn't appeal to me. I have a bunch of smaller tote bags, and it looks like it's probably fine. It looks like it's sturdy quality. I'm sure it's good quality. It's not gonna rip or anything like that. But if I want something bigger, I'm gonna want something that's a little bit more protective, I think. I bought one off of Amazon for like $20 that in theory is good. It holds a lot of square games, and it's somewhat padded. It's solid, but the straps broke. It still has a handle on top, which is reinforced. I would like something that's a little bit sturdier, not just a oversized and stronger tote bag, which is what this. Well, yeah,
they're saying it is pretty. It's meant to be pretty sturdy. It's got a messenger bag strap. It's got. It says it can hold up to 50 pounds.
Okay.
Of games, which is a decent amount.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Unless you have inserts in there, then.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I'm excited. I'm excited for some of these different accessories for gaming, but a tote bag is not what, even an oversized, stronger, sturdy tote bag is not necessarily what I'm looking for. If this were, a zipper thing, I would be more interested in this, I think.
Fair enough.
So if you want to get one of these Con Carrier bags, the pledge is $15, plus at least in the US, it's $4 shipping. So you're looking at $19. You have some options to get two or 3 or 4 or 5 if you want, and it makes them a little bit cheaper, individual unit price a little bit cheaper. So yeah, I mean, definitely go check it out, but maybe Alex, you'll buy one.
Nah, probably not.
Okay, probably not.
All right, but this one does run to January 10th of 2017, in case you're curious and do want to back it. It has already met its funding goal, so it's happening.
You can't stop it, Alex.
You can't stop it. That's the Con Carrier bag, and that is a look at the news. This week, we are talking about an out-of-this-world experience in one of the hottest games of the year. It's Terraforming Mars.
Terraforming Mars, brought over by Stronghold Games, a production by Frix Games. This is designed by Jacob Frixelius? Frixelius.
I think.
Sure, why not? Now, this is kind of a hand management, card-driven game where you are trying to terraform the red planet, trying to increase 3 factors on Mars. You're trying to increase the amount of water, the number of oceans. You're trying to increase the temperature of Mars, because, hey, we're humans. We need a certain temperature. And the oxygen content, because, Alex, I don't know about you, but I want to breathe.
Yeah, usually pretty good idea.
Yeah. So the game's going to end once all 3 of those factors have reached a certain point. Every time you do something in the game that affects one of those, you're going to get a terraforming rating increase, which is going to be part of your endgame scoring, but also it's going to be part of your space bucks. What are they called? They're euros, not euros, but they're like, I don't know. They're
credits,
they're
something.
Space bucks.
Yeah.
Mars bucks. Mars dollars. So you need that. Now, ultimately, this is kind of an engine building game where you are trying to increase your income along 6 different resources. So you've got the space bucks, right? You've got the money. You've got iron. You've got titanium. You've got plants, power, and heat. Energy?
I think it's energy.
I think it's energy, right. And so there are things you can do in the course of the game that might give you some of this resource, but there's other things that are going to give you increased production of that resource. Because at the end of every round, everyone gets to produce whatever their production happens to be. So if I have, say, a income of 5, I'm going to add that to my terraforming rating, which maybe it's like 25. So I'm going to get 30 space bucks. Same thing with plants. Maybe I have plant production of 2. I'm going to add 2 plants. Now, the card play here is key. This is really the heart of the game. There is a couple hundred cards, I think, in the game in total. And at the start of each round, you're going to draw 4 cards, and you're going to decide to purchase some of these cards. Now, you can also draft. In fact, that's my preferred way to play from now on. But essentially, you're choosing which of the cards you're going to keep. You're having to pay $3 per card in order to keep each one. So when it's your turn, you can take 1 or 2 actions. You don't have to take both actions if you don't want. It's not a pass. Play is just going to continue in a clockwise fashion. On your turn, you can play a card from your hand. Usually it costs some amount of money, but you can reduce that cost by titanium or steel if it's one of those types of cards. Sometimes there's also going to be a prerequisite. So maybe you need a certain number of oceans on the table, or you need the temperature to be a certain degree, or maybe you need the temperature to not be a certain, above or below a certain amount. Or maybe you need a certain number of tags. So some of these cards also have science tags or plant tags or whatever. So there are a lot of different prerequisites. And what these cards are going to do is a myriad of effects. It might increase your production somewhere. It might put a particular ocean in play or a particular city in play, or whatever. There's lots of different things that these cards do, and they can do them in somewhat efficient ways. There are some really powerful cards that are late game cards that you can play because they have to have certain prerequisites met. And so there's going to be, maybe you're going to be preparing for that throughout the course of the game to actually play some of those. Now, if in addition to the cards, there are some basic actions that you can take, but they're a little bit less efficient. So you can take an action to add a city to the board, to add a vegetation area to the board, to add an ocean to the board, but they're going to be a lot more expensive to do it that way. So as you're terraforming Mars, you are affecting the map, the surface of the planet itself, and you're going to get some more endgame points based on what things that you've built and controlled at the end of the game. So if I'm building forests and I'm building cities next to them, I'm going to get points for that. As I build things adjacent to oceans, I'm going to get money during the game for that. And there's also certain spots on the board that as you build there are going to give you some little bonus. Maybe it's some titanium, or maybe it's a card, or maybe it's vegetation or whatever. So other things you're able to do, you're able to take the plants that you've gathered and turn them into vegetation. You're able to turn the heat into just raising the temperature. And you're going to continue this until those 3 factors I talk about, heat, oxygen, and water, have reached a certain level. There's some endgame scoring. Throughout the course, you're going to have some milestones and some achievements, which are going to give you points based on if you're the first to, say, have 3 vegetation areas, or if you, at the end of the game, have the most science tags, or you have the most heat production, or a couple different things. And these are things that aren't automatically there. Players have to choose to activate them at some point in their game at cost to themselves.
And there's only so many that can be activated.
Exactly. So end of the game, you're looking at your final terraforming rating. Some of the cards that you're playing are going to have some victory points on them. You're looking at the achievements, the milestones, and whoever has the most points is the winner and the best terraformer of Mars.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Hey, let's talk about the rulebook, Alex.
Yeah.
I hate this rulebook.
Okay.
I really, really hate this rulebook. It's a block of text. It is not laid out well. It's hard to find stuff. Like stuff that you would think would be easy to find, it's hard to find. What benefits this game is that at its core, the mechanics are pretty simple. And so you can overcome that. You can overcome the rulebook itself. But I really struggled with this rulebook. Not particularly crazy about the rulebook.
We may start this thing off with back-to-back negative thoughts because rulebook and then straight to components art. And components art has been the big gripe from a lot of people we've talked to.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, let's talk about that, Alex. So the components, let's start with components.
So the big issue with the components is the way you track these different things, whether it be plants, whether it be titanium, whether it be money, heat, energy, etc. It does, and I like this in some form or fashion, it does it with the same kinds of cubes. You also track your production on the board with your cubes of your color. Your
individual player boards.
It is very easy for things to go awry, though, because there's not an indent, there's not something that keeps that cube in place. If something from your titanium accidentally gets moved over to your steel, you might not notice it. It's a bit fiddly in that sense, but it's also not well set up to handle the fiddliness.
Right. So there's 6, so for all 6 resources, there are 6 individual trackers, and then there's 6 trays above those trackers. So it's where you're tracking the amount of income you're getting, and then it's where you're tracking the actual amount of that resource you have on hand at the time.
Right. And to be clear, they're not trays. It's a flat sheet.
Right. So this is something where if you just slightly bump it, was I at 3 plant production or 2 plant production? I really don't remember. I told Raquel to take her necklace off because at one point her necklace kept, she'd reach over to do something and her necklace would bump something. Or just, I guess don't wear a necklace when you're gaming. But this happened frequent enough until everyone was like, okay, I have to be super careful about this. I mean, you shouldn't have to worry about that during gameplay. I mean, you don't want to, anytime you bump a table, yeah, bad things can happen, but it's just so much more susceptible to that with this.
Right.
And it's very frustrating that nothing was done about that. And it's something that 10 years ago, okay, but I just feel like we're at a point now where this is something that should be thought about and should be considered. So much so that there are a bunch of aftermarket ways to go about this. You could do something really cheap and easy. So what Patrick Hillier was doing was he had them laminated and he had dry erase markers. And I was fine with that. We do have the Meeple Realty ones. There are some acrylic ones and then some wooden ones you can do, but they actually have little spots. It's an overlay. The cubes fit in snugly. They don't move around, which is really nice. And it's nice to not have that worry to it. And this isn't something, in any game, you can bump something. In any game, some piece of track information can get nudged, but it's just come up so often and it's so susceptible to it that it's definitely worth mentioning.
And there's a lot of tracked information out there to monitor, all kind of pretty close to each other.
Right. And we talked about Jamie Segmeyer from Someyer Games had written in, because we talked about this in our recent plays a couple weeks ago. And yeah, there's added cost to have double-sided, or not double-sided, but 2-piece boards with indents like they have in Scythe. And there's an added cost to it, and this is already a $70 MSRP game. But if you're going out and you're spending $25, $30, $40 to add to it, it's a consideration that should have been thought of. I understand that there would potentially be increased costs. To me, it's a major problem with this game, which has affected my enjoyment. And knowing that it's fixed with some aftermarket stuff is great, but it's still a knock against
hard to give credit for it because you have to spend money,
right? Extra
money on top of what's already a pretty pricey game.
Yeah.
To upgrade it and make it work in a way that you would hope it would have been workable before.
Sure. Some other component discussion, the card quality is fine. There's a ton of cards. And I think that the board quality is fine. Again, the player boards are that thin cardstock. The cubes, the acrylic cubes that are the player color cubes are fine. That's fine for what they do. Of course, they can get knocked around. The metallic looking cubes that represent the amount of resources. So you have copper, which is 1, silver, which is 5, and gold, which is 10. They're not actual metal cubes, and they kind of get worn pretty easily because you're handling these a lot. And I have a bunch of mine that are just kind of showing wear on the edges and corners and things like that. Not a huge deal, but still kind of a concern.
And so you were talking about the board itself.
Yeah.
There are certain cards that reference certain places on the board, like Olympus Mons or different volcanoes. Some of those are easy to find. If it's the Ganymede colony, okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's right there. But some of those, you might have to lift up pieces or you might have to move things around just to find where this stuff is. And it's in such small print, it's hard to tell what you're talking about. I thought that was an issue for
Maybe
me.
If you had a stronger knowledge of Martian cartography, you wouldn't have that issue, Alex.
Yeah, I guess so. That goes to show me.
Yeah. I didn't sense that as much or have an issue with that as much, but that's fine.
It only comes up on a couple cards.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the art graphic design. There's a lot of graphic design here, a lot of the iconography that I think is really crystal clear. I think the iconography is to me, a very strong part of this game. So when you are getting a particular resource, it's a picture of that resource or the icon for that resource. When you're getting an income bump, it's that icon with a brown border around it. When it's removing a resource from someone or removing production, now there's a red border around that as well. Overall, I think the iconography is very strong in this game.
I'd agree.
And eventually, when you learn the iconography well enough, every single card has the symbols. Do this and do this, and then there's also it's written there for clarification. Do this and this. Eventually, you don't necessarily need that because you will understand it well enough. So I think that's a very strong element of the game is how well the iconography is. Now, the way the board looks, the orange and yellow around the edge, like the Mars itself is fine, and there are elements on the board, but I don't know. Just as a whole, I don't like how the board looks. I just really don't.
Fair enough.
I don't know. And then the cards. So the graphic design on the cards, again, very functional. I guess I would rather have it be functional than not functional. Like functional and not great art or not great graphic design.
Sure.
This reminds me of the graphic design of really bad CCGs from the late 90s. So when everyone was trying to cash in on the CCG craze, there were a ton of really bad ones put out with kind of rushed graphic design. And this reminds me of that. And I can't tell you what about it.
Because some of them are photos.
Well, no, I'm not talking about the art yet.
Okay.
I'm just talking about the graphic design of the cards. It just feels like rushed CCG cards from the late 90s. But yeah, the art
That's
itself,
what I thought you were going to be, yeah.
Well, and that's the thing too. So some of them are photos, actual photos of scientists doing sciencey things, which is cool. That's fine. But then some of them are illustrated art of varying quality. Some of the space stuff I think looks awesome. I'm looking at the breathing filters, which has some chick with just a breathing mask on, which looks kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the art...
The pets one is the one that always sticks out to people.
This little fluffy...
Just a picture of a poodle.
Yeah. So some of the art is really good, especially the space stuff, but it's so all over the map. It's so all over the map, all over the grid.
Hi!
It's all over the place and inconsistent that it's a little jarring for me. And ultimately, these factors are going to get reflected in my final score.
That stuff didn't bug me as much as it bugged you.
Yeah.
Even the photos versus illustrated art, it got the job done. It didn't bother me actually.
Yeah.
But I know it's bothered many people in our game.
Sure.
For sure.
And again, part of it is that this was a $70 MSRP, which is a little bit more expensive than most games of this weight, of this style. All right. So we've beaten up on this game quite a bit.
On the sections where it's easy to, probably.
Yeah. So let's talk about gameplay.
And it's fantastic.
It is fantastic. The gameplay is fantastic. I mean, it is super good.
So it depends on how you're playing. I like that there's a variety of ways to play, depending on whether you're playing with beginning players or not so beginning players. Drafting cards, for instance, is something I would always do in this game.
Sure.
So you're taking some of the random luck elements out of it, but not entirely. There's multiple paths to victory within this game. I like that there's corporation cards that provide different player powers to the start to incentivize you to do different things within the game. It handles all that really well, and you can win this game in so many different ways.
Sure.
You can have practically no presence on the map at all, and win off of cards, off of awards, off of doing things to the Terraforming rating. There's a lot of ways to skin this cat. So I think from that perspective, it works really well.
Yeah, it has really interesting card play. That engine building I talked about, it's not just engine building in the sense of trying to increase your production in the different resources, but also the cards are giving you some of them are giving you ongoing effects. They may make certain things that you're doing cheaper, which is really powerful. Or they're adding things like, so for example, there are microbes. Microbes are little tokens that you can put on certain other cards, and if you have a certain number of microbes, you can turn it in to do some other effect, or you can turn it in for points at the end of the game. And you're trying to create a synergy. You're trying to create combos, which one of my favorite things to do in games, because it makes you feel clever. It makes you feel clever when you can assemble all of these pieces and then pull off some cool combos. So like you said, yeah, there are a lot of points to be gained by having a bunch of presence on the board, by placing things on the board in such a way, because basically you get a point for every vegetation area you control. And then every city you control is worth a point for each vegetation area that's adjacent to it.
Right.
So one area could potentially be worth, 1, 2, 3 or more points, just depending on how well you set it up for that. And so there's tons of points there potentially. But yeah, I've won a game where I had minimal board presence, and I was even trailing in my terraforming rating, but I had played so many cards that had VPs on them, or so many cards that added tokens to other cards to give me VPs, that I had like a 28-point swing in VPs, or from just cards at the end of the game. And I wound up winning that game by 4 or 5 points, something like that. So yeah, there are tons of ways to play this game and tons of different things to explore in here. There are so many cards. I mean, I've played this, I think, about 10 or 11 times now. Not solo, though. I haven't played the solo yet. And I haven't seen all the cards. I mean, I've seen a bunch of them, but there's a ton to go through. And I feel like even though I kind of know, I'm looking for this kind of card, or I'm looking for this kind of card, there's still stuff that I'm like, oh, that's new. I'm just discovering that. And I really enjoy that. I think the replayability here is incredibly high.
Yes, I'd agree with
incredibly high.
Yeah. And the game kind of has this interesting flow to it where it kind of starts off a little bit slowly. You're slowly raising each of these kind of marks, and then it can snowball. And there's this mid-game that kind of picks up and gets breezy. Right. And you have more actions that you're executing at the same time. It's this balance of, do I want to pay for this card, or do I want to use these other cards I've been saving in hand? Mm-hmm. Do I need to pay for this thing I want outright to buy energy production so I can spend it to play this card? Timing. Is this player going to raise the temperature before I get a chance to?
Yeah.
And at the very end of that track, are they going to raise temperature to such a point where I won't get any terraformer rating out of doing that anymore? Mm-hmm. So there's a balancing act. And there's also, as you play cards, your strategy, what you're incentivized to do, changes so much. It's a great game in that sense, and it does card play really well.
Yes. I think that in the early game, I'm holding on to a card a lot of times that says, needs to be at least this temperature. I'm like, come on, guys, let's increase the temperature. Right. I mean, I'm not saying that out loud necessarily, but I'm just thinking it. I'm like, we're so close. Someone needs to bump this, and you're waiting and waiting. And that's a cool decision. Like, should I have held on to this card? Was it worth the $4 that I paid for? Or sorry, the $3 that I paid for it? That I could have used to do something else while I'm waiting for this temperature to increase.
Right.
Or do I pull the trigger myself and just pay out the nose so I can play it next turn? Pay out the nose to increase the temperature.
Do I sacrifice this production for another type of production that might be more valuable to my game plan?
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is sometimes that is a cost. It says decrease your energy production here to do something else. So it's a lot of really cool decisions here. And even in deciding what cards to keep, it may be early in the game and there's a super powerful late game card. And sometimes you might say, oh, well, I'm not going to worry about that right now because I may be able to benefit from this slightly, but if I were to go down a particular route, I'll benefit from it a whole lot more. I don't know that I want to spend the $3 now to maybe commit to that. But maybe you do, and maybe you're just waiting, you're just sitting in your hand and waiting, and then boom, huge effect near the end of the game. I really enjoy that. And I do like the way it ratchets up there. You're sitting there for so long, you're like, man, we're never going to terraform this stupid planet.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, everyone knows it's maybe it's either the last round or the second to last round, and you're wondering, is someone going to end this? Are we going to have to complete this round or go to the next one? Yeah, it's a lot of really interesting decisions.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of take that there. Certainly you can take actions to destroy other people's plants or set up make a dead area of the board or put junk around someone's city so they can't get as many points from gardens. Mm-hmm. There's all sorts of that going on.
Yeah.
Do I put this thing in less of an advantageous position just so I can get that titanium from placing there? There's a lot of those decisions in this game, and it's handled really well.
Yeah. No, I agree. Overall, I think that this gameplay is superb. I mean, really superb. This is an amazing design, and it's not a hard game. There's so much in terms of interaction and among the cards themselves, but at its heart, the rule set is fairly simple, and it's somewhat intuitive too. So I think this is kind of an easy game to teach. At least I've kind of developed a good way to teach it, I think. But ultimately, yeah, I think that because it's so intuitive, and we're going to talk about theme in a little bit here, it all blends together to make a really exciting gameplay. And I feel very tense during this game.
Yeah, there's some tension there. For sure.
Yeah. I'm constantly worried, oh man, I'm so close to getting this milestone. Is Alex going to beat me to it?
Right.
Is he going to get that third vegetation before I do? And on top of it, I have to have the action. So maybe I'm like, okay, well, I can get the third. I have to do this one action and then do this other action, get the third. But now my turn's over, and I have to wait till my next turn to take the action to claim the milestone.
Or simply put, is someone going to claim the third milestone before I can claim that one?
Absolutely.
Or is someone going to set up endgame scoring that doesn't benefit me? Or do I get lucky and someone sets it up exactly right for me? That happens too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's done really well, for sure.
And there's also the fear of, okay, I have this card in my hand that I cannot use if the temperature goes above a certain amount. Do I do this now? Do I have to wait for it? Do I think someone's going to do it? And then you're like, oh, well, it's two ticks away. Probably someone's not going to do it. And then someone plays a card that just says raise the temperature by 2. And you're like, oh,
yep,
come on.
Yep.
So a lot of tension, a lot of choices. I already kind of commented on the replayability of this. What do you think, Alex?
I agree with you. I think the fact that you have the corporations in there, you play differently depending on what corporation you have.
Right.
I remember playing as the gardening corporation. I don't know their name offhand.
They garden?
They do stuff with plants.
Okay.
Hey, get off my back. And I remember having great success just filling out the board with as much plant life as I possibly could.
Yeah.
Getting good bumps from oxygen. I played as the guys who get benefits, extra benefits from platinum. So there's any number of different ways to play this game based on what comes up,
right,
and what you get as far as corporations. And I like that it adds those variable player powers. They feel decently balanced to me too.
And there are some advanced cards that when you're ready, you can add them in. I don't feel like they're particularly advanced.
Right.
I was always worried about them. I had heard that they were much more take that than the rest of the game. And ultimately, I don't have too much of a problem with the take that aspects of this game. It doesn't seem particularly crippling. Yeah, there could be some times when you have, your 8 plants that you're going to now turn into a vegetation tile on the board, and then someone plays a card that takes away your plants, and like, really? But for the most part, it hasn't been a big issue for me. I don't think. What about the luck? Because that's something that I've heard people complain about because it's so card driven of a game. If you're not seeing the cards that you need, there's so much that's luck dependent. What do you think about that?
I think that can certainly be a problem. It's a bigger problem if you don't draft the cards. And I know people always worry about the draft taking a lot more time. In my experience, it doesn't add that much to the game, really, in terms of time.
Not once everyone kind of knows what they're looking for.
Right.
And has played enough that they have their strategy in mind.
But I would, because of that issue with possible luck coming in, I would always play with a draft. And that's how I'll always play this one going forward.
Well, if you think about it, you're seeing 4 cards a turn normally, right? If you're drafting, you're seeing 10 cards. You have the choice of 10 cards. Maybe not always the ones that you want, but yeah, it definitely affects that luck factor a bit. I do like that there are those basic actions that are printed on the board that you can kind of do in a pinch if you need to. Like maybe you have a card that you really need to play. It's really going to set you up really well, but you need another city on the board. Well, I'm not getting a card that lets me build a city for cheap. All right, I'm going to have to spend $25?
Yeah.
And just do it.
And there's this discussion of powerful versus powerless that I like to get into. Some games make you feel powerful. Some games make you feel powerless. This strikes me on the powerful side. You feel clever in this game when you pull off a good combo.
Oh,
when you get the right cards and they chain together at the right time. You can definitely feel pretty clever in this game, even if you lose. So I like that element of it as well.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have huge concerns with the luck. I can certainly see that. Like you said, the drafting helps, and the other mitigation factors I talked about, I think, help. But sometimes maybe you just have to pivot. You have to pivot your strategy. I don't know. But overall, I really, the gameplay is just fantastic. So the theme of this, you are terraforming Mars. You are turning it into a planet that is habitable by humans without, use of a bunch of extra suits, equipment, things like that. I was first exposed to terraforming in certain episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation as a kid. But it was always weird because it was like this big beam, like this big machine that just beamed a portion and just converted the matter into a different type of matter. And I hadn't actually been exposed to actual hard science ways to terraform that futurists and hard sci-fi writers have been talking about. So a big influence on this game was the Mars series by Kim Stanley Robinson. I haven't read that. I've read some of his other books, like 2313, and all of these kind of futurist ideas, these more scientific ways of terraforming where you are, for example, in 2313, they slam an asteroid into Venus just at a certain angle to speed up its rotation. Because they want it rotating a little bit more frequently so that one side's not getting baked by the sun as much for as long a period of times. So it has more of a normal rotation. And this game takes all of these ideas and puts it in there. So for example, you're taking a comet or an asteroid or whatever that, that's made of ice and crashing it onto Mars. You're taking one of the moons. You're taking Deimos, because Mars has 2 moons, Phobos and Deimos. You're crashing it on the planet to increase the heat. There's just so much stuff in here. You're doing things like geothermal power, magnetic field generation. You're harvesting lightning. You're importing greenhouse gases. There's just so much that feels thematically connected to this concept of terraforming that to me it knocks it out of the park. The thematic stuff here is incredible, and you're doing this each game round is a generation. So you're this corporation that is spending hundreds of years terraforming Mars. And I like that that big picture. The first couple things you're doing, all of those are early settlers, all of those people you've sent there, they're long dead. It's now their kids and their grandkids and their great-grandkids that you're dealing with. I like it.
Yeah, no, it works really well on a thematic level. I don't have much to add because you nailed it. It's well connected to its theme through the cards, through seeing the board transform, seeing different things, and you're visualizing, oh, okay, now these guys can thrive on Mars. Now this can work, and this is going to do this to the planet. It all connects pretty well together. And so like there's the pets card. Anytime a city is built, you get a little bonus on that.
You get an animal, and then
Makes total sense.
And there's other things too, so it's not just Mars, because there are certain things that you can do on Jupiter, for example, different cards. And so there's the Jovian tag. So it's a little Jupiter tag, and you can have cards that the more Jovian tags you have, the more points you're going to get at the end of the game. So to me, it's just it's a really well-connected theme to mechanics. I mean, I'm not necessarily telling a story. There's not a huge narrative hook to it to me, but I do have that feeling, that connection of, I'm transforming this planet slowly by these big impactful events, or sometimes these small events. Maybe you're just introducing animals, certain types of animals to the ecosystem, but only once the temperatures reach a certain amount or the oxygen has reached a certain amount, which makes all sorts of sense. So, this game is so good, Alex.
All right, Sean. Before we get to our final thoughts, Guild had quite a bit to say about this one. As you might imagine, this is a hot game. By the way, number 24 on the BGG list.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a pretty strong praise right there. Sylvan Lacroix says, let me tell you that this game quickly escalated to my top 5, and it takes a really awesome game to crack my top 30. First of all, I'm a huge fan of engine-building games, and this game does deliver big time. Each time the game was different, and we always had the chance to adjust our strategy or try something new. Sure, there's the luck of the draw, but there's so many possibilities that I never felt betrayed by the game. The theme is well presented, and the information, flavor text, and manual is really interesting. Some people complain about the art, but for my part, I love it. It feels genuine and adds to the feeling of the game. And it is for sure my game of 2016.
So Jake Bach, our buddy over at Draft Mechanic, says, Terraforming Mars, hard 6. It's this or Scythe for Game of the Year in the Draft Mechanic camp, and both have their place. I'm of the opinion that Scythe is the better experience, but Terraforming Mars is more mechanically satisfying. A caveat, when we play Terraforming Mars, we draft each round and start with 0 production. These variants and the full card deck put the game in the 2.5-hour zone, and I wouldn't take a second away from it. It flies by so fast, and after repeat plays, you start to really see the deep strategies and how different each game can go. Also, exactly one time I was able to raise the oxygen to 8, which changed to a temperature bump, which changed to an ocean tile. It was glorious. Best turn ever played.
Scott Sexton says, Terraforming Mars is a very good game, but feels like it's lacking something for me that I can't quite put my finger on. There's something about the late game that turns me off a bit. It seems like the winner can be easy to identify in some games, and there isn't much you can do about it. Further, the Take-That style cards are more heavily used in larger games, leading to a much more cutthroat game the more players you have in the game. Some of the Take-That cards just don't seem balanced enough for larger games to take into account how nasty they can be in the very early game. For me, the game plays best with 1 to 3 players. I'm not sure if I want to try 4 or 5 if I don't have to.
What's your preferred play count, Alex?
I think 3 is pretty ideal.
Okay.
4 works okay too.
Yeah, I'm okay with 3, 4, 5. Not so much.
Yeah, 5's a little much.
Not so much. So Patrick Hillier says 26 plays in Terraforming Mars, solid 5 for him, and I know a lot of those have been solo plays for him. I've gotten past art and components. There are plenty of options for fixing player mats. Laminated boards with dry erase are cheapest, easiest that we used at BGGCon. I'm leaning towards solo only at this point unless someone else requests it, which still happens often because it's still hard to find. Megan Axer says, fun game, though it falls a bit on the overrated end of the spectrum for me. The Take-That elements feel very tacked on, and the regular rule set feels a bit too lucky. I definitely prefer the drafting rules, but then the game takes much longer. For a similar feel, which is area control on a shared board map, hand management, etc., I would much rather play Forged in Steel. Overall, a fun game, would happily play it, but not my favorite of the year. She gives it a 4 out of 6. Chris Schreiber says, Terraforming Mars, or T-Mars as I like to call it, Alex, his favorite game of the year. It feels like running downhill. Lots of options, quick turns, constant engagement, small and big decisions, and you can be tactical or strategic if you're ready to adapt. Even though there's actually a lot of things going on, they all resonate with the theme and things make sense. So many cards get played. Sometimes I miss things because I'm so excited to do something else. I was worried about the Take-That cards at first, but really they're just speed bumps. At the end of the game, I can look down and say, look at all I did, in the same way that Agricola gives me joy. But I didn't have to struggle with feeding anyone. Yeah, that makes sense.
And Chris Holm chimes in, says it was his favorite game of the year, can feel really tense, and that he shook Stephen Bonacor's hand at BGG-Con to thank him for getting the game to market.
So, Alex, I was watching For the Love of Spock, which is it's a documentary on Netflix that Adam Nimoy, who's Leonard Nimoy's son, put together. Actually, both of them were working on it before Leonard Nimoy passed about a year and a half ago or so. And one of the things that I thought was cool was they interviewed a bunch of people who are working at NASA, who are working in the sciences in various fields, who say they were inspired by Spock, that Spock, his logic and all those things inspired them into those careers. Do you think a game like Terraforming Mars could inspire young people into a STEM career, science, technology, engineering, math?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a possibility there for sure.
Yeah.
Because it puts Mars in this game-like environment. The cards themselves are cool. I think it has the capability to fascinate folks. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it could have that effect.
Yeah. And even Chris said that. He says, I think this game just might be responsible for inspiring some teenagers today to take up a doctoral program in terraforming sciences. And, it's how close are we to this? I don't know. I mean, I know, what's his name? Elon Musk is preparing for Mars missions. I mean, very early stages. I mean, just getting there is one thing, and then having to actually terraform it's another. I mean, I know we're quite a ways off, but I always think in terms of, the 50s and 60s version of 1999 was going to, flying cars, and we're going to have bases on the moon and things like that. But at the same time, you look at like Star Trek in the 90s, and we're so much farther in certain respects in terms of like computers and iPads and things like that. So maybe it's a lot farther off than we think, but maybe in some ways it's a lot closer. I don't know.
I think it'll be within our lifetime.
What, that we terraform? Or that
no, that we actually be a mission.
No, I think so too. I feel like this game has so much connection to the real, and it's kind of an inspiring game to me in a lot of ways. Not in terms of art or graphic design or anything like that, but in terms of gameplay, in terms of theme, in terms of what this could engender in young people who would enjoy this game. I don't know. I feel this game makes me feel hopeful, Alex.
All right.
Yeah.
Final thoughts rating. We rate games on a 1 to 6 point scale, 1 being poorly designed but playable, not necessarily fun. It ain't going to be that low. 6, an all-time favorite that is a contender for the top 10. So, Sean, where do you end up on this guy?
Well, so here's the thing. If I were to rate this solely on gameplay mechanics, if that were my only criteria, this would be a hands-down 6. No question whatsoever. I think, I forget who said it. We read their comment. It was Jake. I think it was Jake that said that Scythe is a better experience, but this is probably the better game mechanically. Yeah, I think I might agree with that. And I would love to give this a 6, but for whatever reason, I am so hung up on those component issues. I am so hung up on the art that I can't. I really want to give this game a 6, but it's going to be a 5. And a 5 is a great game. It really truly is a great game. We'll rarely turn down a play of it, and that is certainly true. This is such a high 5, and maybe a year from now, I come back and I say, you know what, I got over it. I got over my issues. This is a 6. I can see that. I see this as a game that's going to continue to get played. And so, yeah, it's a very strong 5. Very strong 5.
Is it going to be in your top 10 of the year?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I think it'll be in my top 10 of the year as well, but I fall pretty similarly to where you fall. Maybe not as strong of a 5, but I'm going to give this one a 5 as well.
Okay.
A great game will rarely turn down a play of it, and that's really where I fall on this one. I think the component issues hold it back a bit, and it's just not one that I enjoy it quite enough to bump it up to that 6. I think the gameplay is really, really good, but the components issues are just so tricky for me in this one. That especially with me being as spazzy as I can be.
Oh, are you? I never noticed.
It's dangerous. It's dangerous for me for sure. And there's a frustration with trying to keep track of all these different things and not knowing, did this cube slide into this? Did this one move into that? Am I playing it right? Because you don't want to cheat, but you might accidentally cheat, not knowing it in some form or fashion. So I think this game does a lot of things right. I think the production holds it back enough. And quite frankly, it's that, and I like the game a lot, but it just isn't quite at the 6 level for me.
Okay.
So it settles at a pretty clean 5, and I think even a year from now, that's probably where it'll still be. And
again, I can't tell you why Castles of Burgundy gets a pass.
That's what I was about to ask you about.
I can't.
It's a total pass.
Yeah, it's a total pass, and it's my number 4 game, number 4 game, I think. I can't articulate it. It's just it's a gut thing. And again, maybe a year from now it's going to be different.
There's a certain elegance to Castles maybe that lends itself to a higher score.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, definitely could be. But ultimately, I can't articulate. I wish I could, because at least it would make it feel fair to me. But for some reason, these are hangups that are just holding it back enough for me.
Part of it might be the price point of the game too.
Could be. Yeah, because I mean, Castle Burgundy is like a $30 game, and this is a $70 MSRP game. Yeah, I don't know. But the gameplay is superb. Absolutely superb. All right, well, that's going to do it then for our review of Terraforming Mars. A very strong 5 for me, and a solid 5, right?
Yeah.
From Alex.
You are listening to the Dukes of Dice, proud members of the Dice Tower Network. For other great shows in the network, check out dicetowernetwork.com. Back to Alex and Sean for this week's Dukes Double-Take.
All right, this week it's not a Dukes Double-Take, it's a Dukes Quadruple Take. Mainly because I screwed up.
Boo!
Yeah, I screwed up last week because we were supposed to do a double take on Seven Wonders Duel. Not out of spite for the game. Just didn't happen.
Interesting.
But we're going to do it now. So, Sean, let's start off with Seven Wonders Duel.
Sure.
So what did we give this one way back when?
I gave this a 6, Alex.
Yeah, you sure did.
A super solid 6. And you gave this a 3. And this was crazy because...
Yeah, baffled you.
Yeah, well, because, okay, and we talked about this plenty in the review itself, but basically this should check off every box for you, right?
Yes.
So, a couple of your favorite designers, based off one of your favorite games, Seven Wonders. Quick iteration time, 2-player. You should have liked this so much more than you did.
Yeah.
Right?
Probably.
But for whatever reason, you didn't like I forget. There was
deterministic was what I said at the time.
Yeah, deterministic. And I think there was also, you felt it was not tactical. And I remember there was some discussion about the tactical nature of it or something.
I didn't find the decisions interesting. I found you were forced into things a lot.
Well, that's the thing, though.
That you didn't have choice. I know, and you're saying if you're a good player, you can force people. It just didn't. I never really enjoyed it.
To me, it's a duel, Alex. That's why they call it Seven Wonders Duel. And you're trying to push each other into that position where they're reactive. To me, that's really the game. Is you trying to maneuver so that the other player is the reactive player.
But it's no fun playing out a script.
But okay, yeah. Well, let's go back. We can go back to the review if you want to listen to the review. But basically, we disagreed. We disagreed about that. It doesn't feel scripted to me. There were interesting decisions. You disagree with that, and it feels scripted to you.
There's multiple paths to victory.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's some good things going on here. That's why I gave it a 3. But
have you played it since?
No.
I have played it so many times.
Yeah.
So many times. In fact, one of the things Nostradamus over there, Nostradamus Duke Alex over there said, you know what, Sean? I think you're going to forget about this game a year from now. That's what you said.
Yep.
You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And you were dead wrong, Alex.
Okay.
Dead wrong.
That's fine.
I've played this so much since. It's such an easy game to teach, especially if someone's already played Seven Wonders. It's so fast, and I love it. I love it. Now, the expansion came out, Pantheon, and oh boy, Pantheon is really good. And I think you need to try it. I don't think you'll love it, but I think that it's worth at least trying because it does some things that are interesting. So Pantheon adds these different god abilities that you can start claiming in the Second Age. So again, this is a drafting game. It's a 2-player only drafting game that uses kind of a modified Rochester draft where the cards are out front. They're arranged in a certain structure so you don't see all the cards, and you only have access to certain cards in kind of a pyramid form as you unlock, as you take cards, it unlocks other cards. And you're building resources to build civic elements and science stuff and lots of different things. Now, what Pantheon adds, like I said, it adds those god cards. You are preparing for the god cards in the First Age. So certain of the hidden cards have these different god tokens on them that are also hidden. And as you reveal a card, not take the card, but reveal a card, you get to take one of those tokens. You get to go through that particular Pantheon's deck. So there are the Romans, the Greeks, the Egyptians, and some others. And you get to draw 2 and pick which one goes into the Pantheon slots. And you get to pick where it goes. So there's this cool thing where if it's closer to you, it's going to be cheaper for you to use and more expensive for your opponent. But it's a whole sliding scale that goes, both ways. So there's incentive. Before, there was no incentive for you to unlock certain cards because you don't want to unlock them to give your opponent more choices. Now there's incentive for you to do that. So that kind of creates a nice little wrinkle. Oh, I don't want to give my opponent more options, but I also want these because it's also going to make buying some Age 3 cards potentially cheaper because they could chain into these different Age 3 cards that you're going to add in. And then in the second round, you can actually start using their powers. This was really good. This, I think, took a lot of what Seven Wonders did, where some like you might say that it felt scripted, and gave you conflicting interests in doing things that you wouldn't have had before.
Yeah, I'll give it a try.
Yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. The only bummer to me is that because you're playing with the Pantheon, you're adding these, I think they're called temples, and you use those in place of the guild cards.
Okay.
The third age. That's the only bummer to me. You completely get rid of the guild cards. It's only 3 cards, but that for some reason that still kind of bums me out because I like that.
Okay.
But I really like this. So it's really solid. So I'm gonna keep this at a 6. It's still a fantastic game. It's definitely one of those 2-player games that, this and Patchwork, I think are my go-to, short 2-player games.
Battle Line has quickly become a go-to 2-player for me.
Okay.
For sure. We had one thought on the guild. Dave S. says, count me on Team Alex for 7 Wonders Duel. Welcome. There's plenty of room on Team Alex because, most people are on Team Sean.
Yeah.
We found out from the survey. I just didn't really enjoy it. I grew very tired of regular 7 Wonders and was hoping Duel would re-energize that through a different experience. And I was just left thinking, is that it? I can see why people like it, but it just isn't for me.
I'm confused why you say there was one comment on the guild. There were several comments. Was it just because it was the one comment that agreed with you?
Yes.
So Megan Axter says, yay for fun 2-player games. I have really enjoyed my plays with this one, 13 plays, but each has had diminishing returns. It definitely starts feeling samey, but I'm hopeful the expansion will breathe some new life into it for us. Definitely staying on the shelf, 4 out of 6. And I get what she's saying because it is so much a tactical game. I get that it could feel samey, but I enjoy just that puzzle of this particular game. How's this going to look? Am I going to deny resources to my opponent? Am I going to try and deny them gold? Am I going to try and, play these wonders for extra turns? I absolutely get what she's saying, and I think that she will be pleased with the expansion. Jimmy DM90 says, I have a lot of problems with the original 7 Wonders, mainly that it went out for cigarettes 10 years ago and never came back. It was because of this that I was very resistant to even trying Duel. But in time, I came to realize that I should not punish the son for the sins of the father. Long story short, and I'm sure there's a lot more to that story, Alex. Wow, I'm really interested in hearing more. I got Duel in trade, and when I played it, I was very happy that it solved a lot of the issues I had with the original. Number 1, Duel's endgame scoring is much simpler. There's no convoluted science scoring. Number 2, I don't have to sort out all of the cards in and out for different player counts. And number 3, it actually works with 2 players, which is his predominant player count. The only issue that he's had with it has been that the science victory is won 3 out of 7 games that he's played. All of these wins featured the wild science progress token, so maybe there's something a little off balance with that. Also, science losses are too demoralizing. Military too, I guess, though it's never happened, because it wipes away all the work you've done and makes the game kind of feel pointless. Good thing I built that engine and scored all those points. Then flips the table. So, and I kind of get that, but I feel like I've seen a pretty even balance of science victory, military victory, and then just going down to points at the end of the game.
All right, fair enough. So that's 7 Wonders Duel. That's going to stay at a 6 for Sean, stay at a 3 for me. That's where I'm keeping it.
Okay.
Right there at a 3. Next up, Codenames, the Spiel des Jahres winner. Sean.
Yep.
I think you gave this one a 6 at the time.
I sure gave it a 6, Alex.
You were just handing out 6s like candy.
I certainly was.
And I ended up giving this one a 5.
Yeah.
And I think you were surprised that I gave it a 5.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a 6. I think, what was it your issue? Was that there seemed to be a little bit too much thinkiness?
Yeah, a little bit.
Especially at the beginning?
Yes, it's too smart of a game. No, it's the downtime. There's a good amount of downtime while someone with AP or not tries to formulate that perfect clue.
That's what trash talk is for. Then the rest of the table's engaging in trash talk. While they're thinking. Yeah.
I don't know. It just slows down the game experience, and I find it happens more often than not.
Have you played a bunch of Codenames since the review?
I have. Yeah, I've played it several times. I've played it with family. I've played it at Empire. I've played it in a number of situations. And it works well for those kind of play groups. It's easy enough to teach. It's a word game. People tend to be more familiar with word games. So, yeah, no, it works really well in a lot of situations. And I played it, and I'm happy I own it.
Are you saying word games? Because of your sickness, it sounds a little bit like either war games or warg games, like Game of Thrones.
Word.
Okay.
With a D.
Just checking.
Yeah.
Although a warg game sounds pretty cool.
Okay.
Where you're warging.
Game of Thrones reference?
Yeah.
Hey, guess what I just saw the other day? This is off topic.
Okay.
But it came up because you mentioned Game of Thrones.
I get it. I get how your connections are working.
The Great Muppet Caper.
Okay.
Have you seen that?
No. Wait, the old one?
Yeah, like
the
in
super
the 80s.
old one?
Like
yeah.
Early 80s.
With Charles Grodin.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Diana Rigg.
Yeah.
Who on Game of Thrones is Olenna Tyrell.
Oh, that's right.
She's Miss Holiday in that movie.
Yeah.
But it was really weird because anyway, it's been 35 years in between those, and it was cool.
So Scott Sexton says,
all right.
This game just isn't my jam. I prefer a heavy dose of social deduction or humor in my party games, and Codenames doesn't deliver either. I own a copy strictly for playing with non-gamer family during the holidays.
Jimmy Jimmy DM90 says, I played it 71 times.
Woo.
Enough said.
Yeah.
That is a statement, for sure.
Chris Schreiber says, what can I say about Codenames? It's amazing. One thing I look for in a game that really changes the landscape of the hobby is that feeling that the game has always been there. Yeah, I feel like nothing has changed for me with this, Alex. It's still a solid 6. I love this game. There are so many times I can bust this out. It's such a great thing at Empires. We're waiting for people to show up. I've played this so much since, and I enjoy it. And we talked about in the review, I enjoy just that tension. It has that kind of Mysterium feel, but I like this better than Mysterium, obviously, of hoping people get what you're laying down, you know?
I don't like this better than Mysterium.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah, but I still enjoy it, and I still bring it out in a number of situations. This one will stay at a 5 for me.
Okay.
There's just too many play experiences I've had where things drag on a little too long.
Yeah.
And you hate to use the timer in this game because it's one where you really want to come up with a clever clue. What I will say is you definitely get memories of this game. Memories of
big
people
time.
Screwing up with the assassin. Memories of Suzanne, Pimento 3.
Pimento 3.
Which we have not mentioned on this show in a while, and I don't know if it's worth getting into. Listen to some past episodes, and you'll hear about it. Hooray!
So, Codenames Pictures. Did you get a chance to play that yet?
I did. Yeah, I played that one at Dice Tower Con.
Meh. I don't like it.
Oh, I liked it just fine.
Yeah, I don't like it.
No, I liked it. I don't know if I liked it better, but I liked it just fine.
I do have the Target exclusive, the adult Codenames, that's actually been sitting in my trunk for like a month and a half.
Huh.
Haven't brought it out yet. I'm not, it's what it is. I'm not super excited. I'm happy with what base Codenames does. So, yeah. All right, well, that's going to do it then for our Dukes quadruple take with Seven Wonders Duel, sitting at a 6 for me and sitting at a 3 for Alex. And Codenames sitting at a 6, again for Sean, and sitting at a 5 for Alex. Well, in honor of Alex's upcoming trip, we're going to discuss some solo travel gaming. But first, a quick word about our sponsor. Hey, Alex.
Yeah, Sean?
Do you know it's my favorite time of year?
What's that, Sean? Is it Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas?
No, it's Feldmas.
Oh, a Merry Feldmas to you.
And to you, Alex. You know, our fine sponsors over at Tasty Minstrel Games have a brand new game just in time for Feldmas from one of our favorite designers, Stefan Feld, Oracle of Delphi. And I got to play this at BGG-Con, and it was awesome.
And this is a pick up and deliver one, right?
It is, and I was surprised to like it as much as I did. That's a great way to spend your Feldmas. But hey, we don't want to leave everyone out. We want to be inclusive here. Tasty Minstrel also has a reprint of Gates of Loyang from Uwe Rosenberg. So if you want to celebrate Rosenbergica, you can do that with Gates of Loyang.
I guess that's a thing now.
That is a thing. So to everyone, Merry Feldmas and Happy Rosenbergica.
And check out all of TMG's titles at playtmg.com.
All right, so our buddy Matthew Ward posted in the guild, since Alex is going far, far away on a long trip, I thought we could help him out with some solo gaming suggestions. So he suggests Mr. Cabbagehead's Garden Game.
I really want to play that.
Which is just a deck of cards you lay out and score a bunch of interference of Mr. Cabbagehead's neighbors. Great art and challenging gameplay, and definitely portable. I have that. I've yet to play that. And Patrick Hillier says +1 for Mr. Cabbagehead. He also suggests Castles of Burgundy, the card game, Utopia Engine, Hostage Negotiator, which is one that was on your radar for a while.
I played it.
Oh, you did play it.
I played that one at Dice Tower Con a couple years, 2 years ago, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, solid. I really liked it.
All right. And then Oh My Goods has a good solo mode if you have the Longsdale and Afar expansion. And then Coffee Roaster is his latest solo-only game. So before we get, I guess, too much into this, so you kind of described a little bit last week, but what are you envisioning for solo play opportunities? How is that going to look? Is it going to be on a plane? Is it going to be on a train? Do you like green eggs and ham? Would you eat them in a house? Would you eat them with a mouse?
Yes,
Okay.
to all of those.
All right.
Somehow. Yes, I'll be on planes quite a bit,
Right.
and I'll probably be at different points on buses and trains. So in all sorts of these situations, limited play space. And then the other situation where this might come up is staying at a hostel. But that doesn't necessarily have to be solo. There's other people there who might want to play or might not want to. Who knows? But it's that plus I'm going to have limited packing space. Keep
Right.
that in mind. I'm going with just a backpack.
So
A big backpack.
Are you gonna be okay putting a bunch of stuff in like one box to save space? You can have a bunch of different games, but in one.
Yeah, I might do that.
Okay.
And I'm thinking of bringing some copies of Happy Salmon as gifts for
Okay.
folks.
Just for whoever you meet?
Spreading the Happy Salmon gospel.
Okay.
No, to get Dukes of Dice folks I meet on the
Oh,
road.
I see.
Yeah. By the way, separately, I just got a Dukes of Dice laptop skin for
Oh.
my MacBook. It looks
cool.
super cool.
From Redbubble?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't see the manufacturer.
Maybe Redbubble just, kept all the profit.
Maybe.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
We need our 75 cents, Alex.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, yeah, those are the situations I tend to play in. And I don't tend to play a ton of solo games. But if there's something that can fit on a tray table or fit on a small table, depending on the situation and scenario, I think it could work quite well. Though I think the intent is to try and be a little more social, especially in the hostels. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's the lay of the land.
So right now, do you have any plans on what you're going to bring?
Happy salmon.
Well, yeah.
A lot of happy salmon. I have not sat down and thought about it, if I'm honest.
Okay.
I have not sat down and thought about it. I'm trying to think of good, easy-to-teach games. I might bring Love Letter with me. Not as a solo game, but as just as something to play with folks. I don't know. I hadn't intended to bring a ton of solo games, to be honest.
Okay.
I will say Galaxy Trucker as an app, I've really enjoyed playing solo. And I really enjoyed Sentinels of the Multiverse as a solo app. So apps, I might be more inclined to play solo
Okay.
as it comes up.
All right. Steve O'Rourke, the Name Father, says many of his recent solo plays of games have been Lanterns, Splendor, Patchwork, and more. Loading your phone might be a wise plan.
Got to do all the downloads of the States. You don't want international data charges. No good.
So Sylvain Lacroix says Tiny Epic Galaxies has a very good solo mode with a small box. And I actually have played it solo, and it's pretty good.
Cool.
Race for the Galaxy with the first expansion adds a nice solo mode. I wasn't aware of that. That sounds really interesting.
I could bring Scythe with Automa.
You could. That would be perfect. Kind of like Mike Canavan's Mage Knight as his favorite
right.
solo game.
Yeah.
So our buddy Derek Davis says Mr. Cabbage Head. So you're now like +2 for Mr. Cabbage
Yeah,
Head.
I got to get that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just take your copy. You're not playing it.
I don't even know where it is.
Oh, great.
I did find Motina, by the way. We're missing Motina. I did find it. Castellian, which is really good. I think that these Oniverse games would be really, really solid. Very small footprint and very simple, quick, but really solid.
I haven't played any of those yet, and I want to.
Yeah, Castellian's really good. He's recommending Nautillion, which I think is just coming out or just came out. Haven't played that. And Friday, which actually you did a solo review of Friday, and you weren't crazy about it. You got rid of it, right?
I did indeed get rid of it.
Yeah. And also Megan Axter, she's on board with Onirim too.
Hey, Jeff Hayward mentioned Scythe with Automa. I actually didn't see that. I was
Oh.
just thinking about that. So, Jeff, sorry for stealing your stuff without knowing I was stealing your stuff. Nice joke.
Matt Walker thinks that One Deck Dungeon, like I was saying earlier, is probably better as a solo game. I think you may want to look into this. I think that you'll like it. It might be a little bit too big for like a standard size airplane tray table, but it's really solid. It's got a decent amount of depth in a pretty small package.
You know what else has a great solo mode? Baseball Highlights 2045, first mention.
Good job.
Just squeeze that one in there. Yeah.
So any other games springing to mind that you think you might consider?
So, again, not solo.
Force choke.
Ugh, that'll show me.
Yep.
Coup would be one that's reasonably easy to teach and transportable, but again, not solo.
Nope, not solo.
If I got a copy of Bonanza, that would be good too. Not solo.
Yep.
Maybe it has a solo mode? Probably not.
I feel like if we were discussing Han Solo right now, all you'd be doing is talking about Lando Calrissian.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm not going to stay on topic with this one. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, but thanks to everyone for the suggestions. I'm definitely, just off of this, going to get Mr. Cabbage Head.
Okay.
Likely by scouring Sean's collection and just stealing. Yeah.
Let's see how that works.
Yeah. Not well, probably.
Booby trapped.
Oh, no. With cabbage?
No.
Oh.
With explosives.
Explosive cabbage?
Yes.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for helping Alex out for apparently something he doesn't want or need help with.
I didn't say anything like that. I'm happy to see the suggestions, especially for apps. Apps, I think, are going to be key.
I don't know about you guys, but I can't wait till he's out of here. I'm just kidding.
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
Oh.
Relax.
I'm
Relax.
sad now.
You're just so mean to our listeners and our guild members. Alex.
I am not mean to anyone except for you.
That's mostly true.
And Matthew.
Yeah. You're probably meaner to Matthew than you are to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poor Matthew.
Strawman Matthew.
Yes, indeed.
The wolf pack is still alive, though.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. We've got some naming runners up from over in the guild. This week was kind of hard because there was Seven Wonders Duel, there was Codenames, there was Terraforming Mars, solo games. A lot of themes that we saw were people kind of giving codename clues, which were all very clever. A lot of good stuff in there. This was kind of a hard one to kind of pick from.
In fact, we had a Schwazi.
We did have the Schwazi. So what actually won was A Wonderful World. Neil Hoffman came up with that one. My pick was from Jimmy DM90, Code Red Planet. I like that. I like the idea of, Codenames, the Red Planet. It's like the before and after Code Red Planet. I like that. And kind of along those lines, our buddy Chris Schreiber had mentioned, this isn't an official top 6, but the Colonel Jessup Christmas special, because he's the one who ordered the Code Red Plus, he's all about the military victory in that. Remember, that's the A Few Good Men.
I haven't seen it.
Wait, you haven't seen A Few Good Men?
No.
When I was playing the clip earlier, you had no idea? Oh, man.
Nope.
But it's the famous, it's Tom
I've heard
Cruise.
the phrase, yeah.
It's Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson is Colonel Jessup, and he's on the stand, and I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. It's an attorney movie, a legal movie that I don't have big issues with.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there's some dramatic stuff that they embellish and throw in and things like that. But ultimately, I love this movie. I think it's a great movie.
All right. Well, I haven't seen it, so...
I give up. I just give up.
Yeah.
You know what? Don't take any solo games. Just download a bunch of movies. I'm going to make a list of like 50 movies.
Okay.
And just watch them.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, Steve O'Rourke, the name father, came in with World 3, a codename clue.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah. Jonathan Dodd, Olympus Mons. Olympus Mons is the giant mountain, bigger than Everest, that's on Mars, but also Olympus for the Pantheon of Seven Wonders Duel, things like that. Danielle Bach from Draft Mechanic. Men are from Mars, women are from Babylon.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Solid.
And then finally, Chris Schreiber with Global Swarming. We're talking about heating up a planet, and we're talking about Codenames and Terraforming Mars, kind of taking the game industry by storm.
Yeah.
By swarm?
Yeah, well, okay.
Yeah. You said if there were insects. There are insects, Alex, in Terraforming Mars. You can add, it can work.
Okay. Oh, I need a hot tea.
You need the friendly Shoggoth to come and offer you some oolong tea.
Yes.
But he's
also, gone this week.
He's also sick.
He's not, yeah, he is very sick. Like, if I sound really sick, he is incredibly sick. You don't
about-
want to be around the friendly Shoggoth when he's sick.
What about the smiling Chthonian?
Okay. They're all dead. Everyone's dead.
The smiling Chthonian?
Yeah,
said?
so they're all dead. It's
Oh.
just the friendly Shoggoth. Now, by the way, his Panera is doing very well, in case folks were curious.
Does he? Wait, he owns it?
Yeah, he owns and runs a Panera. You didn't know this?
I didn't know he owned it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just thought
Well, he franchises it. He doesn't own Panera as a whole.
Oh, can you franchise Paneras? Are they not all corporate
I don't
stores?
know. He's heavily involved in a Panera of some kind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're just managing it or what?
No, I mean, he has an ownership stake in it.
This all sounds made up to me.
Yeah, well...
I think you're making this up, Alex.
No.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for episode 122. What a wonderful world. Thanks, Neil Hoffman, again for that suggestion. Well, Alex, you need to get some rest, but you can't because you're going to work.
I sure am.
And we all need to stop being sick. So let's do that. Until next time, this is Sean.
And Alex.
And Hail Hydra.
Thank you so much for listening to the Dukes of Dice. Today's episode was recorded in the Duchy on December 17th, 2016. Our theme music is provided by Carbohydro M from his Prime Legacy album. The Dukes of Dice are a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. For other great board gaming podcasts, check out DicetowerNetwork.com. And for all the latest in the Duchy, go to DukesofDice.com. Find us on Twitter at Dukes of Dice. Join in conversations on our Board Game Geek Guild. Find us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks to our sponsors, Tasty Minstrel Games and Meeple Realty. Check out TMG's awesome titles at PlayTMG.com. And for high-quality board game insert, check out MeepleRealty.com. Meeple Realty, think inside the box. We'll see you back here in 1 week. Until then, game on!
How are you working tonight? How are you anchoring the local news tonight?
It's going to work.
Is it?
Maybe. It's my last weekend doing this. Like
Oh.
I feel normally I don't. First of all, I've been sick on weekends and not called in.
Sure.
I'm gonna have a lot of hot tea and some throat lozenges, and hopefully that'll clear stuff up.
So since it's your last week,
Yeah.
right? So this is your last week at anchoring.
Yes.
So can we get you to say some kind of phrase, work some kind of phrase in?
You could try.
Let's come up with
What am
something.
I, Robin Scherbatsky?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm
Oh,
Barney.
God.
Yes, I'm Barney.
All right.
So let's figure out something for
What are
you
you
to say.
trying to work in?
I don't know. Let's come up with something.
You come up with something.
All right. Can you throw in a meow somewhere instead of a now, a meow? How epic would that be? That would be epic.
It's been done before. I've seen people do that before.
All right. Well,
Anchors.
have you done it before?
I have not.
Then you should do it. You should do a meow.
If I get the chance, maybe.
All right.
I'm not promising anything.
No?
Not promising.
All right. Well, let's come up with a phrase. Let's come up with, can you say titillating? Can you work in titillating somehow?
Maybe.
Because titillating's a funny word.
It
And
is.
it's a totally legitimate word,
It is.
but it's funny.
I'll think about it. No promises.
Come on.
No promises.
Promise the Dutch. This is for the Dutchy, Alex. This is for all of our listeners out there. Then we'll get a clip of it, right? And we'll play it so everyone can hear. Putting you on the spot, because that's what we do here.
I am not making any promises.
You hear that, listeners? You hear that? All right, Alex.
Letting everyone down again.